All right. Okay, that's working. Cool. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, what I'm going to talk about today is something that I've been working on the side to allow mind control in JavaScript. So to start with, a little bit about who I am. So I am a software developer at ThoughtWorks, and I come all the way from Sydney, Australia. So I know that on the program it said that I'm a creative developer at the New York Times. It's not a lie. I used to be a creative developer at the New York Times earlier this year in London, but for many reasons I've decided to move back to Sydney and to move back to ThoughtWorks. So it's like the second time that I work there. But apart from a job title and a location, I like to make creative things with code. So either creative in the graphics way, using something like processing or open frameworks or P5.js, but also creative in kind of like in the idea. So I like to tinker with hardware as well. And one of the side projects that I've been working on is going to be the topic of this talk. But how did I get to play around with a brain sensor? So let me kind of take you back in time to when I started to learn programming. So I didn't do a computer science degree. I actually have a master's in marketing, so that's quite different. And 3 years ago, I decided to quit my job to try and learn to code, and I did a coding bootcamp called General Assembly. So depending on where you come from, you may have General Assembly in one of your cities, but the goal of this bootcamp is you learn to code in 3 months, and you learn the basics of building web apps using Ruby, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But when I finished this bootcamp and I was going through the hiring process at ThoughtWorks, I had a bit of free time because when you want to apply at ThoughtWorks, you have to go through like 7 steps of interviews. So I did have a bit of free time because it can take a while. And at that time, I bought a device called the Sphero Ball that you may have seen because they did a Star Wars edition. And I also had a Leap Motion, which is the device that you can see is plugged to my computer. So at the time, I was trying to maybe build apps for both of them differently. I was trying to do a visualization with the Leap Motion and build a kind of, I think, a Ruby app for the Sphero. I don't really know why I wanted to do that, but and then when I started with the Leap Motion and I could see that you could, oh, by the way, so just if you don't know what the Leap Motion is, so it's the device that you plug to your computer and it can track your hands over it. And it can check what the orientation of your hand in terms of like axis, the position, the number of fingers over it. So if you do this, it knows that there's only one finger. It knows the type of fingers, etc. So with that type of data, then you can do basically whatever you want. And the Sphero usually pairs with an app on your phone, and you can control the ball rolling around, and you see a bit of augmented reality on your screen as well. And as I started by doing visualization with the Leap Motion, I was thinking, well, if I have access to the data coming from the Leap Motion, I can then control the Sphero to roll around. So I started looking online at people who maybe have done that before, and I found a few repos, and I tried a few things, and then I kind of like started tinkering with the code, and it worked. And that was like one of the first time that I actually played with hardware, and I was hooked straight away. I was like, oh my God, like the code that I can use to build web apps actually can move real objects, like real things. So that was my first kind of like experiment. And then I started thinking, well, what next? I'm not gonna stop there. So what else can I do? And so I bought the device that you can see on my arm there. That's called my armband. And this device is a gesture control armband that senses the activity of your muscles in your forearm. So there's also an accelerometer and gyroscope, so you can see the orientation. You can have that kind of data, and all the sensors inside give you, allow you as well to kind of train some gestures. So there's some pre-built gestures, for example, waving right, waving left, or doing a fist gesture. And same thing, as you can have access to this data, then I started by making a ball roll around, and I also bought a drone. So when I experimented with the motion, I also made like a drone fly with the movement of my hands, and then same thing with the Mayo armband. So, but that was even more exciting because instead of being blocked over the Leap Motion, because the range is not that big, I was actually free to move around and be able to just like do whatever gesture and make the drone and Sphero move. But then I was like, well, what next again? And I started playing with brain sensors. So the one that you can see on the slide there is NeuroSky. So it has 3 or 4 different sensors around your head, and it gives you access to a level of meditation and attention. So same thing, there was a Node.js module for it, so I started playing with it, and I could make a spherable move with my level of attention and the drone as well. The thing is, it was a bit flaky, and also only having access to a level of attention and meditation wasn't really interesting for me. Sometimes the value that was coming back was 0, like as if I was like brain dead. I was like, well, that's not going to work that way. But at least it was like, it got me really interested in trying to play with brain sensors. And then I actually bought this one. So that's an emotive epoch that has 16 different sensors. So that's obviously a lot more and a lot more interesting. The only issue is that at the time there was no Node.js module for that one. And as I just basically like started being a dev, I was a bit like, oh, okay, so what am I going to do? So the only SDK available were in Java and C++, and I had no idea at all. Like, to me, Java and C++ were the kind of things I didn't want to touch. There was not many resources, and even now, so it's been like, 2-3 years, even now, the documentation is not like super great, and as not many people have this sensor, when people kind of ask a question, there's not many answers, so it was quite difficult. Also, I didn't have much free time because, I started working 9 to 5, like probably many of you. And also, I'm not very patient. So when I bought this one, and I was like, I'm not going to just put it in a cupboard and not touch it. Like, that's actually quite an expensive piece of hardware. So I was like, I'm not going to not do anything with it. So I started like, Charlie, like, you're so stupid. Why did you not check before that the kind of tools you could use instead of just buying the hardware and then thinking about that? So then I was like, okay, so I'm going to try and go through the very long and painful journey of creating my own JavaScript framework for the sensor, so that if people buy the sensor and they want to do JavaScript with it, they can. So what does it do and how? So when you buy that sensor, you can download software that's like an emulator. So if you can't be bothered to set up the sensor on your head, because it can take a while, I mean, you have to, whatever, I'll show you later. You can have this emulator that fakes how the sensor would work if it was well connected on your head. And also you have access to the live data. So there's like a gyroscope and an accelerometer in it. So if I rotate it like that, I have access to the angle, the X and Y axis. You can track facial expressions like smiling, blinking, winking, and even like looking left and looking right. But one of the most exciting features is that you can have access to some of the mental commands. So you can train yourself to think about pushing, dropping, thinking about the direction right and left, and you can train that. Train that with one of their software and then have access to that data, because it produces a file of your own brain patterns, I guess. So when I started with that, I was like, oh my god, it was like mind blown. I was like, I can wear the sensor and I can train it to recognize some of my thoughts. And in their software, you have a little cube in 3D, and it was going forward in space when I was thinking about pushing. I was like, ah! So this is what I've been working on. So the tech stack that I'm using is that I decided to use the C++ SDK. And I know that on Monday we talked about an API to do native modules, but at the time I didn't use that at all. So I used NodeGip, node bindings, and nan. So code samples. So if you've already built native modules, I'm just going to show a little hello world example, so you may find that boring. But if you've never done any native add-on before, maybe you will find it easy to get started with. So if we start from the bottom of that code sample, we create, just for a simple hello world, we create a module that we're going to call my module. That's going to call the init function. And that main init is going to expose a function called say hello that we're going to be able to call later on in JavaScript. And this say hello is actually going to create, is actually going to call our print hello function here that just console logs a hello world. So of course, as well, the only knowledge of C++ that I have is the one that the things I've been learning on that project. So that may not even be what the code does. But I think that's what it does. And then in our binding.gip file, We have the target name, my module, so this is what we want to call our module. And the source code of that module is going to be the hello C file that I showed you just before. And then you just run the node git build command, and it does the whole compiling and building. And then in a test.js file, you can actually require bindings and my module that we created. And then you have the say hello function that was exposed before, that exported. And if you just launch your test.js file, you have your console log hello world that comes from the C++ file. So that is just like how to get started. But if you look a little bit at, that's like a really small code sample of what I've been working on for the emotive. But it's the same concept. If you start from the bottom, you have a module that we're going to call module, very creative. It's going to call the init function there, and we're going to expose a function called connect. That's going to call our connect function here. And inside that small sample, we create an emo state handle that allows you to have access to the data coming from the brain sensor. And then we pass it in a function that checks if the state of the data shows that it's coming back as a facial expression of blinking or whatever you want if you check the SDK. And then here we have a blink that's attached to an event. So then in JavaScript I can say if like event.blink is more than 0, because if facial expression is blink comes back as an integer. And yeah, so our event.blink is actually going to give us the result of the is blinking integer. So yeah, so now when I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course, easy. But when I started, I was a bit like, whoa, I have no idea what I'm doing actually. If you look at the code right now, it's very much as well a prototype. I have a lot of refactoring to do, but at least it's kind of working. So that's where I wanted to get to. And yes, so from the C++ code, same thing, you have a target name because we wanted to call our module. And then it's, the source file is the functions.cc file that I just explained. Node git build as well, and then same, so we have like just a variable called epoch. We require bindings and module, and then inside our epoch.connect function, we have access to event where we can attach blinking or is looking right or is smiling or whatever you actually want. So if you launch your JavaScript file, you'll get an object of all the kind of state of your facial expressions or mental comments. Oh no, already. Okay, so live demos. So how am I going to do that? So we probably, and you probably saw yesterday that when you play with hardware, there's a lot of chance that it will not work. And also, as I didn't want to stress myself out, I actually didn't try my demos before coming here. So, I mean, I've tried them ages ago, but like, I didn't want to try it yesterday because I was like, if it's not working, I know that I'm going to freak out. So I'm going to be just like you. I'm going to be, is it working? I don't know. So to start with, how am I going to do that? Okay, to start with, oh yes, this is just my usual gif of like, remember, it's not always working, it's not my fault. So, I mean, it's maybe my fault, but all right. So my first demo, this one should actually be all right. So I have a backup video because I've done this talk a few times, and there's a lot of times where it didn't work. So now I did, you know, I'm going to make backup videos. So it's like, I'm not lying, it works. All right. So the first demo is actually quite OK because I don't even need the hardware. So let me just think about it. Oh, no, not the code. Ah, don't look at the code. All right. So I have my thing here. And then, oh, it's not big enough. Let me, no, I can't actually make it bigger. So what am I doing? OK. I can't click on my thing. Does anyone have an idea about why I can't click on my stuff? All right. So I can do that, but I can't actually click on the, where's my, oh, because my mouse is supposed to be there. Yeah. Oh, you see a mouse, okay, I can't see a mouse, I see a weird stuff. All right, so if I just, oh, sometimes I see a mouse, sometimes I don't see a mouse. All right. So here you can see that it's faking that all the sensors are well connected to a head. And here you can send different different actions. Actually, that's very small. Maybe you can't see. So in my program, I first ask if you want to be connected to the emulator or if you want to get the live data from your brain. So we're going to start with the emulator. Yay, connected. And if I click on the blink function here and I send the event, yay, actually, oh, smile. That's oh, it's because it's here. OK, that's my bad. Wait. That's, but if I do that, neither. All right. What about I close it and I try again? I need this one. I'm going to close that too. All right. So we start again. Invoke composer, and I want to start by sending a blink. Yes. OK. Right. So it's getting the right event, and then if I want to send a command of like thought of pushing, I can send it as well, and yeah, so you can get, so technically, or like in theory, the code works because the emulator can pick up, the emulator and the Node.js code can pick up the right events. So that is for the emulator. Another thing, so that I'm going to have to show you the video there because this is using their software that I can probably show you here. That is when you track the actual live data. And I think, where do you see the cube? I don't remember. Something like, yeah. So this is the interface that you see where there's a cube, and when you train, you can train some actions on the panel on the right here. And you train your thoughts for 8 seconds. You select the action that you want to train. You think about that action for 8 seconds, and then you kind of test it on the 3D cube. So I am not going to show that live because I think I'm just too nervous to actually think about an action, so I know it's not going to work. But I have a video, so is that going to work if I? Okay, so yes, so that was like me thinking and like wearing the sensor, and you can see that as you train, just like maybe a second time, as you train your thoughts, you can actually have feedback straight away. So I know that I think I've trained 3 actions at the moment, so it generates a file on your computer, and then using the SDK, you can load that file, and it's not what I wanted to do. E. What am I doing? Full screen. Yeah, so you can load that file and you can see the actions that you've trained in your code, and it should work, but for some reason it doesn't. So that, I wanted to actually try and show it live, but that means I'm going to have to set up the sensor. So the only annoying thing with that sensor is that you actually have to put like some contact lenses liquid on all the sensors so it connects properly. So while I do that, as it takes a minute and I don't want you to be bored, I'm going to tell you a story. So the story of this sensor in particular. So when I started to play with that, I bought one of the sensors from the website, right? By the way, I'm making a bit of a mess because I'm putting liquid everywhere, but I'll clean. So this sensor is actually not the first sensor that I bought, because while I was working on a project with ThoughtWorks, one of the guy on the client side actually started putting on the Slack channel that he wanted to sell a piece of hardware that he didn't know how to use. And I started being like what are you actually selling? And he was, oh, I'm selling like a brain sensor because I don't really know how to use it. And like, if you want it, I'll sell you for like $80. And I was like, $80? Like, do you mean 800? Because I paid like $1,200 for this. And he was like, no, $80. Like, I'm not doing anything with it. It's gonna stay in a cupboard if I don't use it. So I got this sensor for $80, and the one that I actually bought is still in the box in my apartment that I never opened. So now I have 2. So you never have enough brain sensors, I guess. But it means that now if I have 2, then I can build games or do like racing cars with your brain or stuff like that. But yeah, it means that I got, like, if I had known that before, I could have just saved more than $1,000. Oh, well, All right, so maybe I'll tell you another story. So once I was flying with that brain sensor, and I thought that because it looks a bit weird if you've never seen that before. So I thought that I would be stopped at the airport because it looks a bit weird and people would ask me questions. So I got stopped at the airport, but the reason why I got stopped is because that bottle was more than 100 mils. So I was like, really? So I had to throw it and then buy another one. But yeah, so apparently, you know, no matter, like, you can really go with anything you want in your bag. All right, so hopefully I put enough, because if I don't put enough, I'm gonna have to do it again, and I don't have enough stories. So, all right, so I'm gonna turn it off. Then I'm gonna put it on my head. Oh yeah, so you put it like this. Sometimes I show it to people, and they start putting it like this, and I'm just like, what are you doing? So, at least I can, all right, so, also I look very stupid, so don't take pictures. All right, so I need the sensors, especially around my face, because I want to do the facial expressions. Same, if it doesn't work, backup video, but it would be better if it works. All right, so I'm going to have to exit my presentation. I'm going to have to, no, not this one. I'm going to have to go to the control panel, because I want to check that the facial expressions. All right, I'm not smiling, but apparently I'm smiling. Okay. Okay, I'm smiling, and then I need the blink for something else later. Okay, well, I guess that's working, right? Okay. Wait, because, damn it. I think I need to put more liquid. Do I have another story? Probably not. Okay, so that's normal, but that is not working now because it's not connected. I'll try to do it quickly. Oh, I do have another story, not related to the brain sensor. My God, I haven't told that many stories before. So when I took off from Sydney, I started reading a book. And I'm French, by the way, so actually I've done the trip quite a few times. So 24 hours is like, I'm getting used to it now. But I started reading a book, and by the time, the book was like a few hundred pages. By the time I finished the book, I looked at the map and we were still flying over Australia. I was like, whoa, like this is actually really long, I didn't realize. So yeah, okay. I really don't have enough story after that, so I really need this to work. So hopefully, like, the orange dots are okay. Like, the worst is if it's red, because that means it's really not connected. But green is better, because then it means that I won't have to put that much effort in for it to work. Okay, so let me turn it on. Hopefully I won't have to. Oh, not at all. Do I need to restart it? Totally. Okay, let me try. Control panel. There's the other USB there. No? No control panel? Okay. I don't want that. Yes. Oh, wait. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Actually, it's much better. So if I do again, oh, I have 6 minutes left. Okay, so if I do like, but I'm not spending right now. Okay. All right, so yeah, kind of. Let's try. Let's see what happens there. Hopefully it will work. Okay. Okay, well, it can't load my profile. So I'm going to do something. And don't look at this. Can't load profile. I'm just going to remove that because it's annoying. So, and that also, yes, because as I am using, I actually do need to rebuild. So I will then, see, boom, done. Okay. So, please, I need this. So if I do, no? Oh, yes! Okay. So, what am I doing? So if I wasn't looking right, but okay. Left, no, okay. Ooh, yay! All right. Okay. Let's see it works. Yay, it works. All right, so if I do like, yeah, no, all right, wait. I need the smile to work though. Maybe I'm gonna change to like right, left. Yes, okay, so I'm gonna, because then I want to play with the drone, so I need it to work because otherwise, like, things will go a bit wrong. Why is it doing that? I don't like that. Okay, exit full screen and then put it back in like full screen. I'm very good at this whole Google slide thing, as you can say. Oh no, it's not. Oh, present, that's why. Stupid. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the truth. I did that this morning at 6 a.m. because I couldn't sleep because I'm jet lagged. So same, I'm not actually sure it's going to work. Obviously, as you could see, my goal, actually I'm going to start. My goal was to smile and it takes off and blink and it lands. And as you could see, smile and blink is not really well tracked, so I'm going to change it to looking left and looking right because that seems to be working. Which means I'm going to have to show you a bit of the code and you're going to have to close your eyes if you want to be nice to me. Or you can look at it, but just remember that it's prototypey. Where is it? The thing is, I don't remember. Let me just, what am I actual? Yay. All right, so looking left and looking right. Up, close. So, if I say, let's say looking left is gonna, well, I'm just leaving the action, that's fine, but it's not what matters. Actually, I'm gonna just change it. I can't believe I'm doing like that kind of live coding. Looking left, and then looking right. So we said looking, let's say looking right is going to be takeoff, and looking left is going to be land. This is really weird because I can't see the mouse, so. And then looking left. All right. I need to remember that. Right, take off. Left hand, all right. I need the Bluetooth. So this, like that. It shouldn't really go far away. It should really just take off and land. If ever it takes off and it doesn't land, I'm going to have to stop it with my hand, like with the propellers. If ever it flies towards someone, like you, you just pick a finger that you're fine to lose and just be like, all right. So it's going to be fine. Like, it's just plastic, so that's all right. But we never know. So this drone connects via Bluetooth. So my Bluetooth is on. Right, take off. Left, land. All right. I'm actually so scared. So it's going to connect. It should tell me soon that I'm connected. Oh, wait. Well, that's fine. Well, you see, okay. Okay, let me just stop. There is looking right here. Why did it not take off? I'm going to have to look at the code quickly, if you don't mind.
Don't you need to recompile before you...
I changed the JavaScript, so no. So even looking left, then action. Oh, because it was landing. Damn it. Oh, no, looking right. That's fine, yeah. Looking right, and then, okay, let's try again. It was working this morning with the smile and stuff. So something is annoying me, though, about the can't load. So I am going to have to do like, and then, yes, I'm going to have to recompile. Yay. No. No. All right. Shit, I just broke it. I just broke it live. Ah! Why not, though? Give me 1 second. I also did that this morning, and damn it. I really fucked up now. All right, so if we don't, it should still kind of work, though, but just not the new version. So if I try again, you were working this morning. I can use the emulator. I know that works, but so that's fine. It's going to log whatever. No. Left. Left. Right. What the? See? Looking right here. All right, so it doesn't work, but I can bet you that if I do with the emulator, it will work. All right. That's fine. I'm going to have to do that with one hand as well. That's great. Is there looking upper face? No. Well, my eyes are upper face. Looking right, we said, yeah. Active? No. All right, well, okay. Well, that's not working. Cool. So, I'm sorry I was excited about that. Well, that's fine. Okay, can I remove it now? Because, yeah, okay. So, sorry, that doesn't work, but it did work. That's the thing with coding at 6 a.m., I guess. So, learnings. JavaScript is cool, but it's not everything. I guess that if I had known at the time Java and C++, I would have done. It wouldn't have taken me 2 years to do that. Doing open source is, like, to me, it's hard. Like, I've contributed to some, like, modules and repos before, but when you start everything from scratch, like, I do realize that there's actually a lot to take into consideration, especially that some people start raising issues, and I'm like, oh, it works totally fine on my machine. So yeah, like, I still have some work to do with that. But be patient as well. That's something that I've had to learn over the years. I always want to try and play with stuff very quickly, but you have to be patient to try and learn things slowly and get it to work in the end. Never update anything before a talk. I know that, but I do it anyway. So the other day, just before I flew out, I updated my OS, and then for some reason that I don't know, it stopped working. And then I just updated some stuff that I had no idea what I was doing, and then all of a sudden it worked again. So yeah, sometimes it's just like, just never update anything. Once it works, just don't touch it. And then I'll update when I go home, but like, yeah, I was like, oh, not working. Actually, that's a lie. I was like, not working. So yeah. And finally, I can do this. I mean, some of the stuff don't work, but I can still do this. That is like one of the most important thing that I learned, because I was kind of very scared to get started with that because I thought that, it was kind of impossible. But with time and effort, it actually does work. Next steps. So I want to try and add some tests to maybe avoid like the kind of failure that just happened. But and also, I've never tested anything with hardware. So I think that would be quite interesting to go into that. I do need to refactor. Yeah, because the code is pretty bad. I need to make something useful, because making a drone fly with your brain, that's cool, but who cares? And if you have any ideas, yeah, so I'm like DevCharlie on Twitter. So if you have any ideas of things that you think would be interesting with a brain sensor, I have my own ideas, but like, I think it's more interesting to like, get ideas from other people. Resources. Yes, so I have a few links there. The link to the slides have been up, but I'll share them on Twitter if you're interested. And thank you very much for having me, and thank you for listening. Yeah, that's it.